Hello YouTubers, I'm back to make another video. Uh, this time I'm making a video on freight recession, and I keep up with how the rates are, as far as uh, with brokers, like TQL and CH Robinson, Coyote, and all. Even though I don't have a truck anymore, and my authority, um, I'm out of service, but I can still access, um, on the app, I can still look on the app, which is Truck Smarter, um, and, you know, I take a look and see what they're paying right now for each mile and stuff. And this I don't know if it's you know applies to uh, lease on owner operators. Like if you're a owner operator and you leased on to a company like Snyder and any other company, Swift, which a lot of people don't like and have a lot of videos, and they make fun of them. They think that a lot of Swift drivers are bad drivers and stuff, but I think you know there's a lot of there's bad drivers in every company, and stuff. It's not just Swift, but Swift is a big company, um, so you know there's a lot of videos on Swift, of people or drivers driving under a bridge lower than 13 feet 6 inches, or just doing some crazy, stupid things, and all that. But there's there's a lot of not a lot of drivers, but there are bad drivers in every company and stuff, and I made a video about myself because you know and it was and I asked the question, have you had an accident, and that video nobody looked nobody um uh viewed. I had no views on that video. It's like nobody wants to admit that as a truck driver that they've had an accident. I saw a video on YouTube where this one guy was really honest, and he said, "Yeah, I've had an accident and stuff, but and it's not good to have an accident at all, There's truck drivers out there that they've never had any accidents at all, not one, and they've been driving for a long time, for years and years, and all that. Um, but you know, I've had some accidents, and it's cost me, and I've had to pay tickets and all that, and stuff like that. Gotten put it out of service and whatnot, but you know, uh, that was when I was an independent owner operator, and while I was an independent owner operator, um, I would have to look for my own load boards, you know, with Coyote and TQL, and also uh, Uber Freight. I use Uber Freight, and I pretty mainly tried to stay here in Texas. I didn't want to drive out of state. I just wanted to be regional, but I was supposed to be interstate. And I did have to drive, um, you know, out of Texas. To keep up, because I had an audit, so I had to drive out of Texas, uh, and turn in my audit with the FMCSA. They do audit you and everything. And I had a friend, fellow truck driver that I went to training with through Hogan, transport, and he is now an owner operator. He's leased on with Hellwig, and he's getting paid $1.50 a mile. But the thing is, though, that Hellwig has consistent loads, and they haul frozen food and whatever. So it's very consistent, and I don't know if they dispatch him or if it's not forced or if it's forced. I don't know. Um, but he's always able to get loads and keep he's always able to keep driving, so he makes money. But when most companies, I don't think they do that anymore. I think most companies have you, uh, even with Swift, I think, and Snyder and all. You're your own boss, and you can, you have to be responsible to look for your own loads, call the brokers, and book your loads, and pick them up and on time and drop them off on time, you know. But and they might have better, rate per mile, uh, and for sure they have a crap load of loads. I mean, with Swift and Snyder and all that, they have a lot of loads. So I mean, there's no way you're not going to make any money with them. But as an independent owner operator, it's very, very hard. It's really hard. If you're looking to uh, be an owner operator and all that, don't. I would just. I wouldn't go through a dealership and get a loan to get a truck right now. Um, my friend, he got a personal loan, and he bought his truck, and I didn't do that. I went through a bank and got a loan, and he did it the smart. He did it. I think I said this before, but he did it the right way, and you know now if he doesn't make a payment on his loan, well, they can't take his truck away. It's paid and it's his, you know, unless he wants to sell it. So I think that would be the best thing. If you have the credit, just get a personal loan, buy your truck, 20, 30,000 if you can get that much on a personal loan. And if you can't pay your personal loan, they can't come and take your truck. It's yours. Of course, your loan's gonna go into collections and whatever, but if you can't pay it, then you can't pay it. And that's all it is. I've got a lot of loans that I can't pay right now, and I want to pay them, but I just don't have the money. But right now the it's been going on. The recession's been going on for. I looked at a video, and it's been 3.5 years, and who knows when it's gonna get any better. I mean, the highest paying broker used to be C.H. Robinson, you know, and they're paying $1.50 a mile, And if you're a truck driver that has a truck payment, high insurance payment, high truck payment, and whatever else, and still, have a wife and kids and have to pay your bills. I mean, you'd have to make like $6,000, a week, and it might not be possible to do that right now. Just don't even. And that's a if. But if you lease on to a good company, you know, then you might be able to make it. I mean, I think leasing on would be a good, uh, option. Right now, leasing on to a company would be a good option, but not every I mean, you have to go with like Snyder and Prime or whatever the companies that have loads, consistent loads. There's other companies that go on their load. You have to look on the load board, and they may have better rates, and if they don't have better, if they just have the same rate that you know are on the load board, you know, for $1.50 a mile, man, that just won't, that won't, they might not be good for you. That might not be good for you. So I think the best thing to do is just, if you can, if you have, 6 months, of experience, or if not more, a year, 2 years experience, you can easily lease on to Snyder and Prime, or um, Swift, easy. But you have to have a truck that has the crash mitigation system. You can't have one. They won't. You can't lease on with onto those companies that don't have that, and stuff. So, but right now it's still bad. Uh, but I'm just saying, as an independent owner operator, you're not gonna get the best rates. You might be better off to get, lease on to a big company, the mega carrier, or um, maybe like cloud trucks might have better rates. I don't know, but then you'll have to make sure that you're always on time to pick up your loads. If you book After you book a load, you're always on time to pick up a load and drop off a load, because they're if they're getting better rates, they don't want somebody to mess up anybody. They don't want anybody to mess up those rates with the brokers, because if they've built up a good reputation, with C.H. Robinson and Coyote and TQL, or any other brokers, they don't want any drivers to uh, give them a bad you know reputation, or relationship with them, uh, because they're getting $2 a mile, for example. um, they don't want that to go down, and if it goes down, then um, everybody's gonna have suffer, if from $2 a mile to $1.50 a mile. Well, that's how it is right now, as a uh, if you're an independent owner operator, you're gonna be that's what the rates you're gonna be getting, you know. So I mean, uh, so that would probably be the best thing, if you can get on with a company that has a buttload of loads, and you're always gonna be able to get the loads. They show, if you, before you book a load, just like Landstar, they show you how much the load is gonna pay, and whatnot, how many miles and whatever, and you'll know what you're gonna get paid, before you book the load, and maybe you might get really good paying loads, with those companies, but I think that it's don't I don't think it's a good idea to be right now to be an independent owner operator it's not a good idea because it's really bad right now. I've seen lows for at least, 30 cents a mile. I've seen that low. There, and some of you that if that watch my videos, you might know what I'm talking about. 30 cents a mile. That is crazy. You're not gonna make no money out, like that. You're barely gonna make any money at $1.50 a mile. I mean, you would have to have like loads, and it's not possible to get consistent loads on the load board. And you have to make sure that you go somewhere where there's gonna be plenty of loads. I mean, most of the time it's the Midwest, and sometimes they there might not be anything, you know, in the Midwest. You have to go to an area where there's, you're gonna, hit the jackpot, and you're gonna be able, you'll be able to book a load after you pick one up and drop one off, and you book another one, pick that one up and drop it off, and you know, and you know that way you'll be able to make the money. But if you can't do that, if you can't book a load after you pick one up and drop it off, and you're having problems uh, booking another load, that's gonna be kind of hard to do. So, um, and just like I said one already before, maybe someday I'll get me another truck, but I'm gonna do it. If I get me another truck, I'm gonna get a personal loan and buy it because I don't want to have it happen to me again. Where if I can't pay the loan to the bank, well, I'm gonna lose the truck again. So um, I think that would be the best thing. Hopefully, this will help some people out. And you know, if you're looking to get a truck, your first truck or whatever, and if you have the credit, like I said, if you have good credit, 650 or 620 or maybe more, get a personal loan. Try to get it to 30,000, if not more, you know, and buy a truck like that. Just don't tell the loan company that you're getting it for a business deal. It's a personal loan. You're gonna use it to pay bills and whatever, stuff like that. You don't have to be telling exactly what you're gonna get the loan for, uh, because buying a truck falls under a business loan, and you don't want to do that, and stuff, and it's just terrible how this freight recession keeps going. Who knows? I mean, you know, $2 a mile is where you're gonna make money, if not more. But nobody wants to pay $2 a mile right now, and it's just crazy, and stuff like that, and that's the best thing you can do. Just um, lease on to a company that has a lot of loads. You're always gonna be able to get loads, and you'll be able to make money. You know, right now during this time, that's what you need. And stuff. So, and that's what I'm gonna do if I get me another truck someday. I'm gonna lease on to a company, and try to get the best, or you know loads, and or the highest paying loads. I'm not gonna be able to lease on to a big carrier. I'll probably have to lease on to a different carrier, and say like a Cloud Trucks, and I don't know how good their rates are, but if they're getting $2 a mile rate, then you know that's a lot. That's 50 cents better, more than $1.50 a mile, and stuff. So that's a little bit better, and $2 a mile, you're gonna make pretty some money, you'll be able to make a little bit of a profit, maybe not a big profit, but good enough, and stuff. I mean, you know, but Appreciate y'all watching my videos, and have a good New Year's. And I hope uh, this helps you. You know, with starting your business. And as a truck driver, if you're barely starting off, or if you've already been driving a truck for a while. Uh, but also, I mean, another thing is, um, another safety net is, driving for a company. I can't drive for a company because my record is bad, and I haven't drove for a while, so they're not gonna hire me, and stuff like that. If they do, they're gonna want me to go back through training and all that stuff. So it's just like I've already paid to go through training and all that stuff, and have to go through training to pay again to go through training or whatever. Then it's a bunch of bull crap. It's like you never forget how to. It's like riding a bike. You never forget. You won't. Doesn't matter how long it's been, you won't forget. So, um, you know, and if you're a person that has a bad driving record, well, your your best bet is not to just be. Uh, it's another thing. Lease on to a company. Don't be an independent owner operator, but lease on to a company, and not with the big mega carriers, but another company that might be, they'll probably hire you. Like I said, Cloud Trucks. They'll probably hire you and everything, and you can get on the road, and make some money. Like I said, I don't know how good the rates are, but they might be a little bit better than $1.50 a mile, and stuff. But again, I hope this video helps people out, and hopefully the recession will go away, and rates will go up and everything to at least $2 a mile, or if not more, soon, hopefully. Um, but then also you gotta think, autonomous trucks are, big mega carriers are, uh, you know, gonna try to buy autonomous trucks. They're gonna start trying to get those trucks, and then drivers are gonna be in the seat, monitoring, you know, uh, the how the truck, if anything happens, well, the driver's gonna be behind the seat to make sure everything's okay. That's what the driver's gonna have to do. And the drivers that don't want to do that, well, the small carriers they're gonna go, uh, because the small carriers are not gonna be able to buy those kind of trucks. They're gonna have a lot of old trucks, and those small carriers will be able to hire drivers that don't want to be in that uh, position, of monitoring or supervising or whatever, and they might have to pay. Um, and it's already bad enough, if you're driving for a big carrier that you're barely getting paid and all, but it's gonna be a lot less, if you have to sit there on the seat behind the wheel, and to make sure that the truck is driving uh, the way it's supposed to. Okay, alright, well, y'all have a good New Year's, and I hope you like my videos, and like, share, subscribe, whatever, and have a happy New Year's, and see you on the next one. Alright, bye.